So who is this chap we got coming on?
I'm sorry, I'm eating a mince pie.
That's fine. I haven't bought mince pies yet. I'll probably get some later.
I didn't buy them. My son made them.
Lovely, even better.
That's my first mince pie of the year. Christmas can now start.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and Jon Ponting in Cricklade.
Hello one and all, welcome to Sheer Isolation. Thank you for joining us once again. Kieran, happy December to you.
Happy December to you too, John.
And,
Actually, John, it's a lie. It's not my first mince pie, it's about my sixth, so... You can't eat mince pies on their own. Can't you eat one singular mince pie? Whoever eats just one? No one.
Yeah, I can do that.
No,
I can eat a single Maryland cookie and put the rest back in the pot.
What? What's wrong with you?
I have good control.
I have really bad control.
Right.
Except when it comes to alcohol.
We've got onto diet shaming already. This is disgraceful.
Yeah, we have. Let's move on.
Yeah. For anyone who's not familiar with us, what we should be doing over the next half hour is talking about local music, local venues. We have a guest on every week, and Kieran, you have lined up another chap for us to speak to this week. Who are we talking to?
We're talking to Leander Morales, who is a Warminster-based musician and promoter. He runs a company called GM3. That's GM and then the number 3. Obviously a play on genetically modified to be free of. GM3 Music. And he promotes at the Cheese and Grain and many other venues across the Southwest. He's a musician. He's been a friend of mine for a very long time. I know him through the music. And to be honest, I'm disappointed it took me so long to invite him onto the show. So he's our guest tonight.
It's all right. I've still got plenty of people that I am thinking, we really should invite them on. But yeah, there's no rush, is there? Just week by week, it'll be fine. We've got plenty more people to talk to. We have all the time in the world.
Right,
you have bbeen very excited about this track that we're going to play, which is from the Byker Grove Fan Club. Now, who are the band and why are you so excited about this tune?
So there's the chap who sings and plays bass is a guy called Hugh, and Hugh lives in Bath and has been stalwart of the Bath scene for a few years now. I think I met him about 5 or 6 years ago, and he was in a band called Infrared Bear, who were like this mathy, weird time signature sort of duo that made noise. They were absolutely fantastic. He then went on, formed loads of other local bands, again, all noisy, slightly anally retentive, slightly pretentious, mathy, just brilliant band. And then he ended up in a metal band from Bristol called Foxjaw. And they played 2000 Trees, would be 2 years ago now. And he absolutely blew my mind. They were just off the scale to the extent that after the festival, they regrouped and basically said, we can't carry on at this standard because we're going to just tear ourselves apart. So the guy from Foxjaw sacked half the band, and Hugh was one of the ones who was asked to leave. So he's formed a new band, 3-piece indie rock band from Bath called the Byker Grove Fan Club. And it's like all the sort of lovely indie underground that used to exist in the early noughties that I was really into, but updated for the modern generation. I think they're fantastic. Hugh is just an absolute talent. The whole band are just great people. So this is their debut song. It's called Cake Shop.
There's a man with my body, but not my head. It's not 'cause I'm dressed up or I'm dead. He's inside my socks and in my dungarees, but he's still got my heart and all my miseries. And if I owned a cake shop, would that make you proud? And if I drove a Bentley and fucked out loud, and if I owned a cow, yeah, would that make you proud? And if I bought a house signed in blood, signed in blood, I'm in blood. cake shop. I want a cake shop and a dog and a bright green door. I want a cake shop. I want a cake shop and a dog and a bright green door. I want a cake shop. Yeah, I want a cake shop and a dog and a bright green door. Yeah, I want to get some. Yeah, I want to get some right now at my front door.
It's a really effortless video because in the video they just get to eat cake. And there's like a cake competition where they got to eat cake, and then the 3 band members all like fight off against each other, and they all lose. But Hugh wins in the end.
Can you get away with eating just a single slice of cake, or do you have to go back for more?
I have to go back for more. But in the video, Hugh has a whole trifle to eat. He eats a whole trifle. So I
need to do a lot of prep to be able to take on that much cake. You said you were quite excited about your product placement this week.
I go into the pound shop in Chippenham once a week, go pick up some super glue or whatever it is I need to pick up for work. And I always browse through their music section because they've got obviously everything's a pound, it's a pound shop. And it's all supplied by Music Magpie. I didn't actually realise this until I bought a CD, and you get a little Music Magpie thing in it. Anyway, this week I've picked up myself the Mars Volta, deloused in the Comatorium, which is the guys from At the Drive-In. Do you remember At the Drive-In?
I do, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it's their sort of follow-up band. It's noisy, it's only retentive, pretentious noise, art rock that I love. But the point is that you don't know what is going to be in your local pound shop because they actually have some great stuff in there. Obviously, there's all the usual fodder from the 90s and early noughties, like Athlete and Robbie Williams and all that kind of stuff. But there's also some gems in there. Like in Chippenham last week, they had Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, on CD.
Time to introduce our guest then. So, Kieran, I'll hand that bit over to you. Who are we talking to?
So Leander is as a musician and promoter based in Warminster. I've known him since 2004. When I did my first gigs, I was introduced to him via a chap called Tom Pears, who used to do my gigs with me back in the early days. And Leander and I have been friends ever since. He still promotes in the area, still does shows. He does some much bigger shows than I do. I still do roots shows, looking after small bands and small venues. And he kind of went, I'm going to go big. And he's got the most ambitious grand scheme planned. He's always got something boiling, and he's got a thought, an idea. And he always goes beyond, expectations. This is, we're not just going to do a gig in a field. We're going to do a festival.
See, I always think that you go a bit over the top with your ambition. So you're saying that this guy, Leander, is the next level up from you.
I think he's calmer than me on like an individual basis. Like he'd sit down with a cup of tea with me and I'd be all over the place, but Leander would be calmer. And then we talk about ideas, and then he'll go off and I'll try and rein him in. I'd be like, that's quite ambitious, Leander. I'm not sure if we're capable of that.
We've ended up creating our own music promoter hierarchy then, because it's my job to rein you in.
Yeah.
And it's your job to rein Leander in.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So
wonderful.
Give us a quick rundown of your potted history. Everything from when you first played guitar to when you first promoted, when we first met, all that kind of stuff. Go.
Okay, my history goes back a little further than that. I'm not going to give you 50 years of it, but because I'm not as old as that. But my grandfather was a merengue drummer in a Puerto Rican band back in New York, back in the sort of 1940s, 50s. And my mother was a folk musician touring the States and across Europe. Doing the Greenwich Village circuit and working as a singer-songwriter. My father in the 70s was in London working for Panda Records as a roadie and a kind of runner. So they met together as artist and roadie, and they lived in a squat in London, where a lot of artists lived just near Canary Wharf. They were penniless, but they were kind of very anti-capitalistic in their thinking. They were there for the art and the kind of bohemian thing that was going on at the time. So, and then I was born, and I just had lots of musical influence in my life. A lot of it I thank my teachers for, and it went from kind of wanting to be an archaeologist to discovering that I absolutely love music and what it was doing for my soul. And some fantastic bands in my teens got me through some serious mental health issues and some small traumas that had happened in my life. So I realised that there was an absolute passion for music. And so I went to become a musician and a singer-songwriter, and went through the whole ropes of touring everywhere and playing support shows and with some fantastic bands. I was very disheartened by the record industry and the publishing industry, and I'd had a couple of incidents as an unsigned artist. I'd also started playing a few clubs in London where a lot of singer-songwriters would gather, and some of them went on to become absolutely fantastic writers and very successful. So Amy MacDonald, there was an artist called Jem who came out in the noughties. But there are a lot of other artists that could have easily had #1 hit singles or #1 albums or a whole career surrounding music, and the only thing that stopped them was just how the industry works, and actually a lot of money stopped them. So the fact that you need to pay for radio pluggers, and I kind of like got a little bit disheartened as a musician. But I still continued my quest, but it's just very hard. I can see why there's a lot of artists out there that are going through kind of episodes of maybe depression, anxiety, and also just it's kind of quite lonely on the road. You know, I was very lucky. I wasn't lonely. I had 2 children, a partner, and everything else. So I was very, very lucky doing everything that I did. But I started repping for somebody, looking after a band, just to get some spare cash whilst I was earning as a musician, self-employed musician. So I was looking after a couple of bands. One of them was a band called the Spin Doctors. There was just several acts where a guy would say, look, can you look after the show for me? This is how you do it. And I thought, this is great. In fact, actually, I wasn't earning a great deal, but I was getting to know what was going on behind the scenes. And I thought, I could do this, and actually I could do it maybe with bands that I like, and then I'm not interfering with what they're doing. And eventually I took a punt at a band called Churro and Breaks, and that was my first sort of, I'm going to try and get a gig with them. So I contacted them actually through a website back in about 2009. They hadn't really been touring. And I put them through a festival, Cheese and Grain. And I remember being in America and getting this email back from the drummer saying, yeah, we're interested in doing this gig. And I was so over the moon because I absolutely loved Churro and Breaks when they launched back in early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. So I put on a gig and it sold out. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And this is my first big show. In fact, I think this is just a couple of years after, because you and I worked together on an event in Honey Street, which is my biggest show with local bands. You know, we had nearly 1,000 people crammed into
a little tent.
It was brilliant. Such an absolute buzz to pull all these people to a pub. But then the Cheese and Grain, that kind of manifested. I think people say it can become a bit of a gambling addiction. Now, it can become a gambling addiction to do things like that, but maybe not if you're working as you're passionate about. So I started putting on more bands that I was really passionate about. And they all did really well for shows. So I put on Reef, who I absolutely loved as a teenager and watched on the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury in the 90s. And then I thought it also gave me an opportunity to give local bands the support as well. So I was able to give like bands like The Operation, the Reef support. But I kind of felt, hey, I've got this, and I can actually get my mates a gig. I can give them a rider, which they've probably never experienced. I mean, I rarely ever got a rider as a musician, apart from when I played the Porticella Bar in Bath. And I used to do a regular spot there every couple of months. And the first time I played that, they gave me a crate of 24 beers, which obviously I'm only going to drink about one of them. They gave me £100. This is sort of mid-90s as well. £100 crate of beer, some water, Coke, juice. And they didn't know who I was. They just had this massive respect for artists. I think it's Tom Madicott who was running stuff at the time. And also...
he owns
goodness,
now, doesn't he?
remember, there were a few people running different shows there, and if this goes out and somebody hears it, they're going to say, "Why didn't you mention me? Because I was the one who put the beer out for you." It gave me a taste of what you could get if you weren't making money. So I tried. There may be an artist out there who say, "Hey, Leander, you never gave me a beer when I played a gig," but I think I did. I think I've looked after virtually all my artists that I've ever worked with. Even if shows have come in at a loss, I've tried to make sure there's some beers or something there, you know. And I haven't done it because I want them to say Leander's all right. I've done it because I actually understand how much of a painful journey it is.
We've not been able to do shows for the last 9 months now. How has that affected you? Did you have loads of stuff lined up that had to be cancelled?
So I had around, I was working on around 25 shows, I'd imagine.
Wow,
for 2020.
were you?
The thing is, when the pandemic hit, I think many of us in the industry thought, you know, in a few months' time, we'll be back to normal. Fine, we're just going to get through this little, whatever it is, a wave. And it wasn't like that. So I postponed everything for about 3 months. And then I postponed everything for 3 months again into the autumn. And then I thought, we thought as a collective, nothing's happening, you know, so let's actually look at around Easter time to be quite realistic. I was really researching quite a lot about the pandemic because of the social media, everything that was going across social media, sending mixed messages, conspiracy theories. And whilst we were all kind of, I say suffering, we're not suffering. People in India are suffering, walking thousands of miles barefoot. But in our kind of first world country, where I was kind of thinking to myself, oh, why is this coming to a stop? And when it became apparent in my own head, we need to look after people we don't know. That we have a moral responsibility as humans to look after people we don't know. So understanding that potentially if I put on a gig and someone walks away and infects 2 people in the chain and that person dies, even though I may never know about it, I could have stopped it happening. So I could stop it happening by being responsible. And I just kept writing stuff off. And I've been a bit apprehensive about these social distance gigs, but at the same time, I mean, Cheese and Grain's a fine example, and Comedia, of places that have set up these fantastic, COVID compliant environments.
Venues are going to go under if something doesn't happen. Is there a way to do it safely? And as adults, can we then make informed decisions on how we behave, you know, the sort of clothing we wear, how close we get to people?
Are we going into politics here, Kieran? Are we going to go into politics?
Because no, we're not.
We could have done this. We could have done this through just people understanding and respecting the industry to such a level that the funding was there. 1.57 billion is a trickle of what was needed to prop up thousands, hundreds of thousands of artist venues and infrastructure that keeps the industry together that everyone benefits from. So if the funding was there, if the respect was given to us, we could have just shelved it for 18 months. And now we're all kind of looking to next year because I'm one of the, as much as I've got a day job, I was listening to Rishi Sunak 10 years before he suggested I should go and get a day job because most musicians and artists, people in the industry, have got day jobs. That's what they missed the trick. You know, a lot of people do work as a musician, but then work as a car mechanic as well. There's this grand illusion that there's these scrounging artists out there that are kind of like, we can only play a guitar, so what can we do? And so it's a complete illusion, and it really undermines years and years of grafting for a lot of people. People like Phil Cooper, who's worked extremely hard, actually been a director of a company, and hung it up to go out on the road and do something extremely brave to then be seen by the government and lots of other people as being like somebody who just wants to sponge a fiver off of universal credit. It's like,
go and get yourself a skill or a qualification. Like you say, Phil already was a computer programmer, incredibly bright and switched on and talented.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so going forward, I don't know. I think the thing is I've got to a point of saying I don't know. I'm going to reschedule shows. I'm going to assess the situation. We now have a massive hurdle of vaccine discussions going on. I was only speaking to a venue owner the other day, and I said, look, they're going to be vaccinating. They're going to be vaccinating the vulnerable and older people. So do we put on lots of 60s bands because they're going to be the first people that can go out? Do you have something that kind of aligns with the people that are jumping to get the vaccine? So we can say, right, we can entertain that group of people, and eventually, we've trickled down to the fact that we can, entertain the world once again.
Is there anything definitely due to head, say, in June? Have you got any concrete plans?
I should have really had a long list out in front of me. I'd just say to go and check out some venue websites. For instance, the Cheese and Grain have got a fantastic number of acts performing there. I'm working on a show with Ed Byrne in late March. And if we're unable to have that show taking place, we'll just move it a few more months ahead. We've got... I was speaking to Rob about a co-promotion we're working on for next October with the Electric Spring Circus.
Amazing.
And about 8 or 9 shows with Martin Kemp, which have been successfully rescheduled. And in closer to home in Melksham, I'm working with a fantastic tribute called Complete Madness, who I really enjoy. It's happening at the beginning of next year, sort of April time next year.
What are you doing with your music at the moment?
I'm going to be cutting a music video. So somebody approached me and asked me if I want to make a music video. So I will be doing that. I made a Christmas film. Have you not seen it?
No.
Go to Christmas in Westbury Facebook, and I worked on a community project featuring music, dance and film with a scripted screenplay. And it's called Christmas in Westbury. And, Westbury's kind of like one of the underdog towns in the area. It's a bit short change for the arts. I know we've got to wrap up, but if you get a chance, go there. It's a bit of a ridiculously silly, but very, very community-spirited film with lots of brilliant music, including Phil Cooper, Kirsty Clinch, Clay Hill Stompers. And that's it. Plug, plug, plug.
So, Leander, did you pick a track for us?
Well, I did, but it seems that you've already chosen Bad Sounds. And can I just say Bad Sounds should have been #1 in the UK album charts. So let's not go there. I'm going to choose Law and Order by Ulysses, if you haven't done it, just because they've got a fantastic video that goes with it. And I have big respect for Ulysses. They're another band that I think, wow, come on, guys. Why aren't they famous? I mean, they don't need to be famous, but,
I'll tell you why, Leander, because I only put them on once. That's the problem.
Got to put them on more, mate. So entertaining.
The traffic warden's got a hold on me. I'm trying to let it from the business.
So that track was Law and Order by a band called Ulysses. I'm surprised we haven't played Ulysses before. I thought we had.
No, they're one of those bands that have, for me, have always been part of the scene, always been there. But as I said in the interview, I've never only put them on once. So they're kind of, I don't know why we've never really worked with them more, but they're really, really great bands. Slightly bluesy, got that blues sort of solid riffy thing going on. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for them.
Time for us to look at a little bit of news then. And the thing I wanted to ask you, Kieran, is just about the new restrictions, because we've now gone from the national lockdown into Tier 2 for most of our listeners, Tier 3 for the guys out Bristol way. So obviously for Tier 3, venues are shut. They can't do anything. But what about for the guys in Tier 2? What are you able to do now?
So Tier 2 now means, and it's from the work of MVT, Music Venue Trust, they were able to clarify that Tier 2 venues, so ticketed events, are allowed to go ahead without a meal, i.e. pubs and restaurants can open and serve food, and you can watch a show if they're in the pub, that's fine. But if you are a dedicated live music venue, as long as you are a ticketed event and they can do track and trace, they know exactly who everybody is, you can serve alcohol, which means you can go back to doing socially distanced shows. Now, this isn't a clear-cut yay, venues can open. Comedia in Bath is a really good example of a venue who have not opened despite being in Tier 2. And the reason for that is they still have to order in a certain amount of stock, etc. And they were originally told Tier 2 venues can't open, so they didn't plan to be open. MVT was managed to overturn that, but by that point they weren't able to buy in their food and their assets to deliver that, so they've decided not to open at all. Some venues are able to adapt. Deborah Barnett, who runs the Southgate Into Devices, which is a wonderful little acoustic music venue, she was talking about it on Facebook, complaining about the fact that she couldn't do gigs. And I said to her, Deborah, very simple. Ticket your pub, and you make every ticket is your first beer. It's basically a ticket for your beer. Because say it costs £5, your pint costs £4. All the leftover money can go in a pot and pay the band. And that way you can be a ticketed venue selling tickets for legitimate music experience, and boom, everybody's safe and above board then. So I don't know if she's doing that, but I would really encourage any pub that does music to sell tickets to their events, and that ticket price covers the first pint. And that way your punter's actually buying the pint and everybody's happy, whoever was above board. There's my loophole.
And gov.uk for official coronavirus advice if you're a landlord. I suggest you read up and interpret, and don't believe everything you hear from Kieran.
It's absolutely true, actually. Interpretation is everything, because if you can jump through the hoops and fill the boxes and the forms and say, that's what this is my interpretation of it, and you can legitimately believe that and believe that you can prove that's what you were intending, I'm sure there are ways of mitigating everything, but yeah, you've got to really want it.
Okay, if anybody wants to get in touch, the email address is sheerisolation@gmail.com. Send us any tracks. If you've got any new videos coming out, then do send them our way. We'd love to have a listen. And at that point, I think we're going to wrap up for the week. Right, I'll leave it be that then, Kieran. So thank you for your time as always.
Goodbye.
Next week. See you later. Bye-bye.